be sitting down and speaking to Stasia Washington, the Managing Director of First Foundation. We're going to do a deep dive into financial resilience in times of uncertainty. I'm Neferteri Plessy, the founder and CEO of Single Moms Planet, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to educating single mothers and their children through financial literacy. Stasia works directly with high net worth individuals and families to create customized plans to protect and grow wealth, often across multiple generations. She also helps nonprofit foundations, exempt organizations, and endowments to realize their short and long-term financial objectives through strategy and asset management. Let's welcome Stasia.
Hello, I'm Stasia Washington, and I serve as Managing Director and Relationship Manager for First Foundation Advisors. I am thrilled to participate in this conversation today. I've been in the financial services industry now for about 30 years and started in the industry as a result of my mother being a trailblazer in the financial services industry going back to the 70s, and she encouraged me to pursue this career path, and it's been a phenomenal journey for me, which started out in traditional banking with Security Pacific Bank, if anybody remembers that, and then has taken me to the Federal Reserve as a regulator, and for the past 8 years in my current role as a managing director and relationship manager for clients. I'm providing advice and direction around investments, trust and fiduciary services, as well as banking, including credit, access to credit, depository products, as well as our philanthropic consulting practice. So it's a pleasure to provide advice and direction and participate in helping business owners in particular go through their cycles of wealth.
Where are we today in our economic uncertainty as we close out 2020 and we enter 2021?
Great question. So the transition is underway from the Trump administration to the Biden administration. And with that, as we speak today, it looks like we will get some type of relief package that is so necessary to help Main Street catch up to what Wall Street has benefited from. There's a huge contrast between the impact on the coronavirus and the economy and how Main Street has been impacted, with businesses, of course, in LA County, even across the country. And the reason why I'm calling out LA County in particular right now is having the restaurants close again. It has created another level of uncertainty as we go into the end of this year. So we are hoping that they'll bridge the divide and provide the same type of stimulus package in which Wall Street received. And if you think back to this past March, the CARES Act provided $349 billion in low-interest small business loans and provided individual taxpayers with $1,200 incentives as well as $500 per child. And then there were expiration dates on that. So it is critical to bridge the gap between the expiration in July of that type of relief to where we are today. We've had now almost 4 months where folks have really suffered. This could be even more severe than what was experienced during the Depression when it comes to Main Street, unless we get a bridge to help people be able to weather the storm until a vaccine is in place.
Just recently, I was driving down the street during the Thanksgiving holiday season, and I was blown away and emotional actually by how many people were actually in line. I mean, droves and droves, thousands of people waiting for food in lines. Is there anything that we should be doing now or foreseeing for our own sanity and protection of our family?
Finding those bright spots to be able to upgrade your skill set and access continuing education is critical during this time. And look at ways to pivot. If what you were doing was just getting by, this time is more than apt to be able to sit down and reassess your skill sets and say, okay, what can I do in the meantime to bridge the gap until we get some type of support from the federal government?
What are some key things that we should be doing and looking into to build financial resilience right now?
Well, for women in particular, women have been hard hit through this pandemic. Matter of fact, a third of women that have been laid off or frontline workers, and recovery is going to be even more difficult. And so it's really important to take a step back as women in particular and reassess your needs and your wants. The needs to run the household, if you have the ability to be able to catch up at least 9 months of savings for all of the needs for the household, that could be the bridge, if you've got the ability to do that, to get through until there's more support from the federal government. Stop spending is the most drastic approach when it comes to wants during a time like this, but it's necessary if you have not prepared for where we are today. And so to reassess that budget, have at least 9 months of cash on hand to cover that management of the household day to day is critical to weather this type of storm.
Holidays are coming up. What should we be doing right now to make sure that we don't overcompensate?
Think about last year, last Christmas. If you were to ask your kids, what did you receive from me last Christmas? And where is that item today? I'd be surprised how many kids can respond right away. Oh, here it is, and I've been using it, and it's still great in my life. So the gift of time and attention, and even using the virtual world right now, is so critical. You can have a Zoom family gathering without exchanging gifts, and give gifts of words of praise and support for each other. I mean, it's a time to reassess. I think that this has been a great opportunity to reset, recharge, and focus on what's important. No one knows you got a Louis Vuitton purse right now in your closet, or Tory Burch shoes. Who cares? No one's wearing it. Matter of fact, it's that shirt that you got from the waist up that you're utilizing for Zoom. Or, at the end of the day, we're just not utilizing, we're not in social settings where those things felt like it was important to have.
I love that. Focus on what's really important. That is really key. It is a reset. It's a major reset, and it's a time of reflection. It's a time of really looking at what matters.
Right. Well, having a financial resiliency plan has now proven itself to be even more important, but that plan also includes non-financial dynamics. Think of your life as 5 balls that you have to juggle. And of those 5 balls, one represents your family, the other represents your spiritual life, the other represents your health, as well as your friends. And so those balls are typically made out of glass. And your career, and we talk about resiliency, is made out of rubber. And that rubber ball, and think about when you bounce a rubber ball, it bounces back higher. So if you are interrupted in your job right now, and I'm not calling it, tragic, I'm calling it interruption. It's an opportunity to reset and look at, okay, I'm going to bounce back through this, but if I continue to focus on what's important, those 4 crystal balls, and I don't drop them, I'll have the wherewithal to be able to mentally and emotionally get through this period of time. And when you asked earlier, what do we need to do to keep ourselves focused? It's just going back to the basics.
I love that. I love that ball concept.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me not take credit for that. That concept came from this former CEO of Coca-Cola, and it was something that he shared as a very important point to reinforce to his staff, that not to spend so much time focusing on work without managing the dynamics of family, health, your spiritual life, and your friends.
Is now the time to borrow?
Borrowing has to be thoughtful and strategic. If you're borrowing for the purpose of acquiring an asset that's going to generate additional income, yes. If you're borrowing to consolidate bills and it makes sense and you're able to refinance your home and get a lower interest rate, and the cost of that refinance is negligible when you do the math over years, and it makes a difference, and especially if you had an interest rate that was over 5%, of course you should have refinanced some time ago. But borrowing in the sense to consolidate bills and wrap them into a lower rate, and you're able to save and have more money from an income perspective, yes. If you're borrowing just to create more debt to be able to go buy things for the holidays, no, of course not. If you're borrowing to, take a vacation, no. But if you're borrowing to bridge, your payroll as a business owner to be able to get through this period of time, and that's why we had the PPP incentive. And I think what was the most tragic thing about PPP is the fact that there was money left over. And that money was left over because so many business owners did not have their financial house in order to be able to apply and receive the credit that they needed because they had not built a solid financial infrastructure for their business. So they didn't have a balance sheet. They didn't have a statement of income. They were commingling their personal life out of their business checking account. And you can't do that. You have to have a separation of the two. And also you have to be able to show that you were paying yourself. And so that a lot of the decision making around the payroll protection program was based on being able to show the payroll. So it's really important if you are a business owner to look at the dynamic and say, okay, I didn't qualify, and the reasons why I didn't qualify, I need to fix that right away to be able to get myself positioned for this next relief package, because they're going to come back around again. And if you haven't met with your CPA or bookkeeper to create a separation of your business and your personal life, and you don't have solid financials, you're not going to be ready for this next wave of opportunity.
What are the key elements we should look at when selecting a financial advisor to build an investment strategy?
So first things first, you should work with a financial institution in which the professional is not on commission. I think it's critical that you ask that question. How are you compensated for giving me advice? We have found that over the years, people do things based on what's in their best interest. And if that individual is incentivized to bring ideas to you versus sitting down with you and developing a strategy based on your needs and your time horizon before pivotal events, be it buying a home or retirement, there's got to be a strategy and approach that's driven by your needs, not someone trying to pitch you an idea. Individual ideas don't get you to the roadmap you need to be able to accomplish your financial goals and for your family. So it's important that that professional is sitting on the same side of the table as you. Preferably, they either have many years in the financial services industry. You can do a search online through the sec.gov website and look for there's a portal actually that has a tracking that can tell you if there's been any type of violations on behalf of that financial professional. So you can do a background check, which is really important. And it's important to work with an institution that has entry points as far as being able to open up an account relationship based on where you are today. And that's a critical component. So integrity, of course, likability, the fact that you feel like you can have a relationship of trust, and someone who listens and asks questions is important. I mean, the financial services industry is built around a lot of confusion and dependability. So the less that you as a consumer knows, the more that the financial service professional knows, there becomes this dependency. And you got to look for people who are willing to break down the confusion of terminology and speak in a plain way in which you can understand what all these different things mean, especially asset allocation and diversification around stocks, bonds, and alternatives and cash, and why you have to have a percentage in each one of those buckets to be able to meet your income and growth goals over a period of time. And then someone that has a certified financial planner, CFP. I don't have that, but I have that on my team but I have an MBA and I've been in the financial services industry for many, many years. And it's just additional credentials that show that they are professionals. I do have a Series 7 securities license, of course, and that is not active, but I've been through that whole process, and thus as a registered investment advisor and a fiduciary, and I'm restate that again, that role of your advisor is even more important, because that means that they're held to a higher standard.
Share what we can be doing at home to up our financial literacy education.
It's unfortunate that in our early education, you think about high school, they put us through multiple levels of algebra and trig and calculus, and that we didn't get multiple layers of personal financial education. You know, what it means to have a good credit score, what it takes to balance a checkbook, how to manage your personal financial life. It was not a part of our upbringing. So look at it in the context of, if you don't understand a term, you know, being able to Google it today, or even use YouTube. I mean, you can type in how to understand bonds, fixed income, debt. Those three terms mean the same thing. So being able to understand how a bond operates, be it at a corporate bond, a government bond, which is a municipal bond, or even U.S. Treasuries, and what that means from a tax perspective, if you buy one, and the deductions, you can Google all of that information, or use YouTube to be able to get a tutorial. I would use all of those tools for any terminology in the financial services industry that you don't quite understand.
And just to button it up, is there anything that we missed that you would love to share?
I think it's really important to focus on where you are today and where you want to be 5 years from now. Even though, you know, it's a lot of stress right now out in the marketplace, especially as business owners, frontline workers, families are being impacted and challenged at multiple levels. But know that this too shall pass. And what we do today, if we operate from a place of, this is an opportunity to upgrade, reset, focus, reevaluate what's important, take advantage of that, versus focusing on the negativity. I mean, every storm comes, it never comes to, it doesn't come to stay, we pass through it. We're gonna pass through this time, and reacting with emotion is a detriment at this time, more than, even though it feels so terrible for so many people, but the best is yet to come. I do believe that, and I think managing our emotions, not reacting, is going to be critical, but being proactive on ways to button up your financial household and your financial well-being, and being able to bounce back and keep this time as a reflection. And I think Bishop T.D. Jakes once said that it's really important to think of life as you're driving a car, and the front window is your future, the rear view mirror is to glance at, which is your past, but you're driving in the present, and you got to do all three at the same time. And it's really important that we call on ourselves to utilize skills like that and keep things in proper perspective to be able to get on the other side of this. And I do believe that everything happens for a reason and a season, and we will look back and say, boy, 2020 was such a year, but we made it through.
For those of us who are invested in the market right now, when we see it go up and go down, what should we be doing right now?
We should always think in terms of, what was our initial plan? When we started investing, you should have a time horizon. So typically should be 3 to 5 years. So think about March of this year. March of this year, the 4 worst days in the market, going back to 1950, happened in March of 2020. 3 of the best days in the market going back to 1950 happened in March of this year, 2020. So some people, and I had clients that overreacted and they sold out completely in March. Unfortunately, they missed those days where we were able to rebound. And think about 2008, when we went through the financial crisis. That was a financial crisis that happened because there was a lot of bad behavior and subprime mortgages, all the different things that happened that created a financial crisis. But 2020, we came into this year on really good financial footing. I mean, companies were doing well. When you think back to this time last year, everything was on track. It was just, looking forward to 2020 being a phenomenal year. And so because we were on good financial footing, the health crisis created a financial crisis. For Congress to put the CARES Act in place in less than 8 weeks compared to 2008, which took almost 18 months by comparison, we were able to bounce back from an investment perspective from those negative down. I mean, at some point, one of those days we were down like almost 18%. We had to swing back to zero and go positive. Here we are in December, and not only have we restored what was initially lost, not realized, but some people realize it when they sold. And we've got gains now that where the NASDAQ is up over 30% since March. So doing nothing during times of uncertainty is critical, because all of that would have come back. Today, the Dow has already touched on 30,000. The NASDAQ is over 12,000. That, we fell well below those numbers. I mean, so this climb back has been tremendous. And it's just indicative of what I said at the beginning. If you have a 3 to 5 year time horizon, this is just 1 year in the middle of that 3 to 5 year period of time. And you will get through this and be better than what we came into this year and what we experienced in the first quarter. So having a plan, sticking to the plan, staying in the middle of the room when everybody else is running out of the rooms or out of the house screaming, you stay in the middle. You don't go to the left, you don't go to the right. Standing still, doing nothing is so important in times of uncertainty.
Creating a financial resilience plan for you and your family is key more than ever. Holding tight to that mighty dollar so that you can invest it for the future, or that you can have a nest egg set aside to make sure that you have 9 to 8 months of security is key. Find new ways to connect with your family. Find new ways to connect with your children. Take them out for a bike ride. Explore something new. Learn something new together. Study financial literacy more than ever before. Make sure that your business is in order. Your taxes are being handled properly. But the number one thing you want to hold true to is stick together. Stay close to the ones that you love and cherish these moments. Creating that resilience doesn't necessarily happen overnight, but each day as you progress through your life, remember to keep your eye on a goal. Study, learn, and watch this video, and make sure you share it with others. All right, I'm Neferteri Plessy, here with Single Moms Planet, and we'll see you next time.